only is this probably the prettiest recipe you'll ever see, it's also one of the cheapest recipes you'll ever see.
Really?
Yeah, it's super cheap, and when you look at it, you're gonna think, that looks fancy, that looks schmancy, I'm gonna serve it at a dinner party.
And it looks like cha-ching.
It does.
It totally does.
Usually fancy does mean cha-ching.
Mm-hmm. I'm surprised. I'm surprised myself. Beautiful.
That's right, we're making Pavlova from scratch, but I guarantee you, you're looking at this right now and being like, that thing's gonna be cheap.
And it looks complicated.
I don't know why it looks complicated. No,
Okay,
I think it's one of the biggest like fake things that is going around the culinary world, that this requires like skill and like extreme expertise. It's simple, it's cheap, it's delectable, it's easy.
Or I'm surprised you haven't said the words cheap and cheerful, because you love saying that.
It's gonna come out at some point. You beat me to it, honey. Because if this isn't the definition of cheap and cheerful, I don't know what is. This thing only is for egg whites.
It looks cheap, cheerful, but complicated. I'm not convinced yet, because it still seems complicated to me.
Have you ever made a Pavlova?
No, and I've never eaten a Pavlova. I can't eat the ingredients in one.
Yeah, but pre-vegan you couldn't?
No.
You've never tried one?
I've never tried one. And it's over. I can't.
I'm gonna do my best to describe how it tastes for you. Now, before we get to taste, we gotta know how to make it, okay? The recipe is in the description box below for you, but we're gonna show you what's happening here. So like I said, there's only 4 egg whites in this. I'm sorry, like that's insane. Not even the yolks.
So what do you do with the yolks? Just set them aside for eating?
I set them aside and I just put them, don't throw those out.
Why would you ever throw those out?
Some people are like, oh, this doesn't include the yolk. Ditch. No, keep the yolk. I made myself an omelet the next day. Now, we're going in with a cup of the good stuff, the stuff that Kiki doesn't like, but you gotta have white sugar here. I'm not gonna take a chance and try this with like maple syrup or something.
No, I don't think this would work. This is a recipe like a souffle where it's like they're very particular in the proportions. You can't intermingle with the different substitutions.
Yes. And you'll see I just put in some salt and I just put in
a lot of this.
Yeah, I was seeing this going. Sometimes when I do this, I'm like, is it working? Is it happening? Like, this is like what I do when it's like I need some confidence.
Okay, so salt, and did you do what else?
Salt, sugar, egg whites. Now I'm just putting the yolks away, and you'll see I'm not just giving the old dumparoo to the sugar all at once. You gotta do it little by little, because if you don't, the sugar doesn't dissolve in the proper way, and this is all about slow and steady, let it dissolve all the way.
Now, do we got any vanilla up in here? Okay, I was gonna say, I'm not liking this yet. This is gonna taste like nothing but sugary.
It's straight up vanilla in there too, sugar, salt, cream of tartar. But before we get to that, we have to set up our tray, because we are cooking this on the Ninja Woodfire outdoor oven. I wanted to see if this recipe could handle that unit, okay? So in order to do that, you gotta make sure that once we get to the part where the egg whites have come to stiff peaks, we're not there yet, we're just adding the sugar little by little, we're gonna be dumping that onto a baking sheet lined with parchment. I like to do a little circle so I know to stay in the lines. It's like if you can color in the lines, you can make a Pavlova.
Very interesting.
And also flip it, because you don't want to have any like marker on going into the actual Pavlova. So you can see I'm just taking my time adding the sugar. Does this look complicated so far? Tell me if you're seeing anything that looks complicated.
No, I'm pleasantly surprised.
Exactly. That's why I don't know what chefs sometimes I think like say things to like scare the general public off of like thinking that you need to go to school for like 10 years to know how to make this. This is like slight science, but it can be taught.
And it's weird because something like a banana bread that seems to be way more accessible, like everybody has their own banana bread recipe.
Way harder.
There's way more ingredients to it. You gotta get a lot of different things to make a banana bread. This is fewer ingredients, but for some reason has that like allure of it being more complicated.
I don't really understand it. I think
it's all mental.
Like most things in life.
It's all up here, people.
It's true. If you think you can, you can.
Oh, Maddie's getting mystical.
Okay, so again, another cheap and cheerful ingredient. You got your cornstarch going in there. And again, I'm not doing anything. I'm just letting the machine do its thing.
Could you do this by hand?
You could, but you would be exhausted at the end of it.
Okay.
Because look at how long this is going. A steady beating of the egg whites.
You just added cream of tartar. That's an ingredient that you can find at any grocery store now.
Yeah, again, and you're using a teaspoon of it. You're gonna use some of the mixture. I like to just use that, dollop it onto the parchment paper and flip it over so that it sticks when you're going to put on the whipped egg whites onto the parchment, because if you didn't do that, it would be really difficult to do that. And you'll be surprised how much like a glue that stuff works like.
That's a really cool trick.
Yeah.
I like that.
Again, is this seeming difficult?
No, so could you make this any shape? Are you doing it a circle for any particular reason?
You could do individuals, aka individuals, but the traditional method is like this. You're gonna be making it in a round puffball, basically.
Ooh.
Okay, and I found this part to be very artistic. I just went with it. You just dump it on there and then you start mixing and gliding around.
This looks like a big pile. It's reminding me of like marshmallow fluff.
That's actually what this tastes like. If you can, not that we're at taste yet, we're still in this zone here. We're still watching this come together, but it tastes, Pavlova tastes like, since it's meringue, it tastes like a toasted marshmallow that's gooey on the inside.
Ooh.
Not as soft as a marshmallow on the inside. It's got some more chew to it, but it tastes toasty like that. It's super delicious.
Okay, so what thickness are we looking for here? You're like mushing this out into that circle. Are we getting this to like as thin or as thick? Like how would you say? 2 inches
Mine was
maybe?
like maybe 2.5 inches off the parchment. Hey, look at how, was that, again, is this hard?
No.
Exactly. So now this is the part where things I think could get a little bit tricky, okay? Also, if you're cooking on the Ninja Woodfire oven, take out the pizza stone before you go and do this. I almost didn't.
You can't do it right on the stone?
No.
Okay. Whoa, that was a big no.
Actually, I don't know if you can. Maybe you could, but it needs to fit in, it needs to slot into that metal rack.
Does this thing rise at all?
It does.
Oh.
Okay, and because the Ninja products, they're like air fryer products. Even though this doesn't have the air fry function on it, it still has that fan. So that's why I was a little bit like, not scared, but a little bit worried about how this would check out in the Ninja Woodfire oven, because traditionally with the Pavlova, you put it in the oven, you immediately lower the temperature. But with this oven, you cannot lower the temperature lower than 300.
Oh.
Okay, so, and you're also not supposed to check. But I checked multiple times because I was so scared, but that's exactly what you're looking for when you're making a Pavlova.
It looks beautiful.
Yeah, it was actually, like, again, I can't really take credit because it's the oven.
It's supposed to be crackly like that?
Yes, that's normal, that's normal. You let it cool in the oven with the oven door closed.
Now you didn't use the wood fire function?
No.
Would that be gross?
No, I think that would be delicious. I think that would be really, I think smoke, we always say use smoke as an ingredient. I think that would be delectable, but I just didn't feel like it today. This was my first time making a Pavlova on this unit, so I wanted to be like, can this actually even be done? Next time I make it, then I can get fancy with it.
Okay, that makes sense.
Gingerly take it off the parchment. I was terrified because even though this thing is gooey on the inside, the outside is crackly, so I didn't want stuff to crackle off.
So it is supposed to be gooey on the inside still?
It's supposed to be chewy on the inside and crackly on the top. So it's like crunchy on the exterior and then chewy on the inside.
Now, are there any particular fruits that you're supposed to use on this, or is it like chef's choice?
Chef's choice, baby. So I like to pick things with like a lot of different bright colors. So I like to have some green on there. Like to have some blue, some orange, some strawberries. Strawberries I think are like mandatory.
Ooh.
And then I saw this dragon fruit at the grocery store and I was like, let's go for it.
Ooh.
Okay, it looks like it had seen better days. It was probably on its last legs.
You should have got that for 50% off. That was gnarly.
I know, it was a little bit gnarly. And also traditionally what's served with a Pavlova is fresh whipped cream. However, I always will go for a Cool Whip in place of a whipped cream because I don't like that whipped cream. You have to serve it immediately or else it will fall.
Yes, I think that's a really great idea. And for something like this that you want to top it with the fruit and enjoy it like later on in the evening as a dessert, whipped cream is like fantasy to me.
It is.
It's good for 5 minutes and then you're like, okay, unless I don't know who's serving something right then and there. That's very rare. That you almost always want to make a dessert and then have it chilling and enjoy it later on.
Exactly.
Whipped cream's not my thing.
So go with the Cool Whip.
Why not?
Exactly. So I went with the Cool Whip. And I also went with something else here, okay?
What's this?
It's a custard. I saw it at the grocery store. And again, Pavlova is very sweet. So when you put stuff on top of it, like fruit is sweet, but it's not super sweet. So the pairings together go so well together. Cool Whip is a little bit sweet. Custard is not so sweet. So it's like the balance of all those different levels of sweetness.
Ooh, and the textures. Like the
Yes.
custard is like a little bit of like pudding with the chewiness and the juicy fruit. Like
Yeah.
I feel like this is gonna be like a textural sensation.
If you can't find the custard, you could use a vanilla pudding.
What
That
about a
also would
lemon
be
curd?
Ooh, that would be delectable. That would be absolutely. Now I'm wishing I saw that in the grocery store.
And lemon with fruit? What is that?
Okay, and look, this isn't rocket science here.
Okay, so you're just making it
putting
look
it
pretty.
on there, making it look nice. That's why I would like to ask you, has any of these steps been complicated?
No, and in fact, this is way like less complicated than I thought it was gonna be.
I
Because
know.
I've never made one of these.
I know.
I've never had one of these. And it looks delicious, and it's a very simple process that I'm surprised by.
And again, that was, I'm pretty sure that was 2 kiwis, a couple strawberries, a handful of blueberries. So cheap.
That would be nice to make for someone's birthday.
Yes.
It's like way fancier than like a cake.
Put a little candle on there. You got yourself a next level birthday cake.
And it looks to someone like you've taken the time to do something special.
Something different.
A little extra something that's not your typical slab cake, which don't get me wrong, I don't have anything against slab cakes.
I was just going to say, don't even start going down the road of bashing the slab cake, okay?
I'm the queen of slab cakes.
You are the queen of slab cakes.
But this is just a little extra fancy. It looks beautiful. Show me the inside.
It also cuts magnificently. So you know, sometimes you're cutting cake and you're like, how do I cut it? This thing cuts perfectly.
Okay, so is the texture like an angel food cake?
No.
It's
no.
reminding me of like...
Okay, so Pavlova is a meringue. So it's hard to, meringue is like
get
its
it in
own
my
thing.
brain.
Okay, so it's crunchy on the outside. Okay, so it's very like spongy crunchy on the outside, and then the inside is like a chewy, more dense marshmallow, but with the flavors of vanilla and sweetness.
That sounds all right. That sounds all right to me.
I can't even, I'm like getting drooly just like thinking about this again. That first bite, I was like, oh my goodness, merge.
She had to put it down.
Yeah,
it was too good.
It was down for a second. Okay, so whenever we do these videos, I'm like, okay, I'm gonna take a couple bites and I'm gonna save it for later. There was no way in heck I was putting that back to enjoy later.
It never happens when something's this good. You're like, you know what? I'm just gonna take my moment. I'm not gonna enjoy it later because I'm gonna enjoy it now.
I was like, it's 3:30. I'm allowed to enjoy dessert before dinner, okay?
Sometimes I feel like I enjoy dessert more if it's before dinner.
Because it feels a little naughty.
Yeah.
It feels a little wrong.
And a little nice, too.
Look at this boy. He was screaming his little heart out. I was like, Rick, you know what, little Ricky, I will share with you, but you better eat it. And boy, did that guy love it.
He's allowed to live it up, too, sometimes.
He is, and I had a piece of my coffee the next morning, and he saw, ever since he saw me take it out of the fridge, I'm like, okay, I gotta give him more of it.
What a character, that little guy. I'm not surprised he loved it.
He loves his Pavlova, and so will you. Make this recipe. It's super easy. And by the way, if you are wondering, where do I get the Ninja Woodfire oven? We actually have a link for you down in the description box, and it's also in the comments, and you can buy one too and make this at home. It's super easy.
We're obsessed with this unit, to say the least.
Obsessed is like, you can't even describe how obsessed we are with it.
Both obsessed times 2.
I'm gonna say times 22.
Well, it's me and you, I know.
42, 52, 72, 82.
You're adding too many numbers.
Let's land at 92.